Drago,
What's up, baby?
what's up with you? You're going with the corn shirt today?
I'm going with the corn shirt today.
I
I am.
like it. How's your
Yeah.
week?
My week's been pretty gnarly, man. I've been doing a lot of self-reflecting and got a sponsor and working back through some steps. So I'm all over the place this week, but everything's good.
I'm doing the 30-day cold plunge. Brock's got you doing it through your treatment. Uh,
Dude, that was yeah. I'm not a cold water guy.
it's taken some of the puffiness away. You already look like leaner and meaner. That's one of the
Yeah?
things is it gets rid of the inflammation.
Oh, that's fun. I got Samantha to go in for a minute
Yeah.
yesterday. Yeah,
What's
yeah.
what temperature are you going in at?
It was like 42.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. That's good.
Yeah.
In between 40 and 50 is optimal, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
People
yeah.
think they got to go down to like 33. It doesn't do anything. I've read more than you just got to be under 50.
Well, one thing I did learn is I can do hard one time.
You can do hard one time,
I could
right?
do hard one time. Yeah. 3 minutes. I sat in there. I'm like, dude, I did 3 minutes and 30 seconds because I didn't want him to tell me I didn't do 3 minutes. So but I did it. I didn't want to do it. I walked around my pool for like a good 45 minutes and I just said,
I'm at 5 minutes at 36 degrees because I just use my pool and it's really cold here. It's actually snowing in North Carolina. My kids, because Amber's from Minnesota originally, so she'll get a kick out of this. Because it might snow today, my kids had school canceled. So
really?
Amber's from Minnesota. I'm from Iowa. It can snow 3 feet and they're not canceling school over it. In North
That's wild.
Carolina, it might snow, get you canceled, right?
Wow.
That's I was in the cold plunge this morning at 5:30 a.m. and it was a little bit colder than I'm used to, but I battled out 5 minutes.
5 minutes up to your neck?
Up to my neck. Yeah, I actually dipped my head back so everything besides my eyes and my mouth are in.
Wow. You're a wild man.
The rest of your day is easy when you started doing something hard, isn't it?
Wait, 100%. Yeah.
So I'm super excited today. I've been chasing Amber, and not like she's been resisting me, but God always puts things together when they're supposed to be. And what's really cool for me is part of Amber's rock bottom I witnessed. So we're going to talk about that today. And I don't want to say I saw her at her worst, but I shared a bad moment that I knew was from her addiction, and I just knew because I had been through recovery and addiction of where she was at. And it's just been so unbelievable to watch your journey on social, watch you and your husband kind of realize you make a change and tour the country, be at the same company with you. We're all mortgage lenders, see you still being successful and getting business done and traveling the country and just documenting your journey so beautifully. So, how do I want to say this? So like just there's no ego to it, right? Just sharing and documenting this beautiful journey on. You're so vulnerable with it. And it's so cool to see your husband on and what I've enjoyed the most is how you fit in your recovery and your sobriety and weave that in with all your socials. So Amber, you got to follow on social. She's just a breath of fresh air, and I'm super excited to hear about your recovery, hear about your journey and your travels, how you think that helped you, and just dig in. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Let's
Okay,
go.
cool. So, what year was it? We are at the pool side. We're having a little pool party before a conference of a company I used to work for. And what year was that?
2019, the fall of 2019.
It was fall of 2019,
Mhm.
right? So, Amber had been overserved, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Overserved, drank too much, natural for these type of events. We all get together twice a year, and it's a party because it's a brother and sisterhood, and we get together a couple times a year, and you see your friends and people that you maybe talk to over Zoom or you're on teleconference with, but you only see live 2 or 3 times a year, right? So sometimes those business events can lead to some destructive behavior, right? And that was the case
Absolutely.
with you, correct?
Yeah, during that time I was trying to get sober. I knew I needed to get sober. Some bad stuff was starting to happen every time I drank.
Mhm.
And it had been a couple months even since I had drank, I think the time before, and had to be put on some antidepressants, was going through a lot of emotional things at the time too.
Yeah.
And, decided to drink on my first class flight out to the conference. And, because why not? You're in first class, they give you the free alcohol, why not?
Right.
And, once we start, we can't stop. And that's the elusive lie that we keep telling ourselves that keeps us sick for so long. Um, and yeah, I blacked out. It was super embarrassing, in front of a bunch of people I respected and thought a lot of.
Yeah.
But sometimes that's what God needs to do to us really stubborn people
Yeah.
to help
Yeah.
us make some changes. So
You had some choice words for me and three other people trying to help you to your room.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
And I don't remember, a lot of
Yeah.
that
And
interaction. And I'm not proud of the way I was acting during all of that either.
right.
So.
Right. Yeah. And I just want you to know, like, there was no judgment for me in that situation. I knew what was going on. I did figure it was some because I've had enough friends and just being in treatment myself, I knew there was something else than the alcohol. So I appreciate you being vulnerable and sharing that with
Did,
me. And
did Chad,
but
did Amber know that you were so, because you really didn't talk about your recovery, right? So nobody knew you were sober, right? I mean, for the most part.
who, me?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I still drank, right? My vice is cocaine, and I've been able to responsibly drink pretty much a year after, not even a year, 6 months after treatment, right? Alcohol was never my vice. I always responsibly drank. Maybe not always responsibly, but it just never took me down that dark path, right? I did have to take the alcohol away to not go back to the cocaine when I was drinking, right? So
Got
I
it.
did have to stop alcohol, but I did reintroduce it and do fine with it. And I rarely drink now. When I do, I probably drink a little too much. But yeah, I was very at that time, 2019, no one knew my story. No
Got
one knew
it.
about the cocaine abuse and that I had been through NA and had the attempted suicide in 2010. Definitely in that environment that we were at, where I was kind of put on a pedestal and elevated as a mentor and coach. I definitely didn't share that with anyone. I
Got
see
it.
what you're asking. Yeah. But I knew when I saw Amber that I'm like, this just isn't alcohol, right? And I didn't say it to anybody, but it was more protection, like, hey, we just need to get her to her room and stop with the judgment, and let's find her friend and her mentor, and let's try and solve this right now and get her to where she needs to go, right? But I knew behind what was going on, right? That it wasn't just the alcohol. So had a bad moment, right? Talk about kind of what happened, what transpired after the hotel, and how you sought help.
Yeah, so I mean, after that had happened, I was asked to leave the conference by the owner of the group, um, and I mean, I obviously had my tail between my legs. I caught an earlier flight home. A friend of mine took me to a hotel where I stayed because the hotel didn't want me on the property either for some reasons that I got a little out of hand, because I was blacked out during a portion of it,
Mhm.
um, and came home and um, I had to talk to the owners of my company. I had to talk to the owner of the coaching organization. It, you know, I felt at my lowest point, but I remember the owner saying something to me about, you know, the most successful people in the world are a little bit crazy. They just learn how to harness that crazy. And that was something that really resonated with me because I was like, why am I so crazy? And fought that a lot. But there's a good way to be crazy too
Yeah.
sometimes, and you can be crazy good. After I flew home, I was dry drunking it for a while. Went on a team trip actually in February to celebrate our great year to Aruba, and I decided to drink on the team trip. And my team at the time had been a little bit traumatized through that situation. They knew where I was at. They're covering all the things, and here, I was flying home early, and they knew kind of what had happened, and I didn't get out of hand or anything like that on our team trip, but about halfway through, I just had a long conversation with my husband. He's like, when are you gonna do this for you? And that was something that it finally hit me. Like,
Mm.
so much of my life, I'm like you, Chad. I'm on my third chance of recovery. I drank a few times in high school and smoked pot a couple times, and my parents, ended up putting me in a really lockdown treatment facility, and got sober. Stayed sober through high school, but ended up drinking and stuff in college, and then after college went to treatment. So I already kind of had this label, and everybody knew I was an alcoholic, but I didn't want to be. I didn't want to accept it. I wanted to be normal. I wanted to, I couldn't envision big things in my life without using alcohol. Um, and it wasn't until, kind of that conversation with my husband, I just so decided I wasn't going to drink anymore. And I immediately went to a meeting. We're in Aruba, went to an AA meeting.
While you're on the team trip.
Yeah, yeah.
Good for you. How did you find that meeting?
Um, I can't remember, but I'm sure it's Google, right? Because, there's most intergroups have, like resources online that you can
So
find.
if you're watching right now and you're having trouble finding a meeting, because that's usually everybody's excuse, I can't find a meeting. You
Yeah,
literally could just Google AA meetings and it will pop up wherever you're at.
correct. Yeah. So, and I think there's only like one or two places that did it anyways on the island. Um, but it was a defining point of me making that choice of, I knew what was happening every time I drank, but I was telling myself that lie that it wouldn't, next time, or that I could responsibly drink someday. And I finally was just like, I can't do this. If I do drink, I'm gonna end up dead in jail or, divorced,
Institution.
one of those three.
Yep.
And, frankly, that wasn't the life that I knew I was capable of, the life that I deserved. I had so many blessings around me. I was really throwing it away, and thank God got a hold of me, and I fully surrendered at that point.
I have a question for you. When your husband said, or when are you going to do this? Because I had a similar situation with my wife, right? When she was like, what's going on here? Like, I'm going to leave. That was like, that's just the first time where I felt like I got slapped in the face and I was like, oh shit, I have to change. Because if I change, I'm losing everything. Did you feel the same way?
Yeah, and there was other times that, that had come up in our relationship, and it was like I was doing it just for him, but I think it was already so out there, and I was able to kind of have these periods of sobriety, but just not like decide for myself. And I don't know what was revelationary about, the way that my husband said it to me exactly, but it became very clear to me. And every day since then, I literally wake up and think about the choice that I'm making, the choice
Good for
to
you.
not going to drink today because I want to have, a long life. I want to see my children get married, all the things you have to tell yourself why you're doing it. I think all the good things.
That's unbelievable. How long you guys been married?
Coming up on 15 years.
15
Nice.
years. So
Yeah.
he stuck through you, being beside you. Sounds like kind of watched and observed, and when it got to a point that's like you got to change, he was the change agent for you.
Yeah, he was the voice of reason. I mean, he's a normal person, doesn't have really addictive personalities, but I always did, and I think I was never, as growing up, I wasn't super comfortable in my skin. I wanted people to like me, and I lacked a lot of, I guess, self-assurance and being a perfectionist and things. I worked really hard and was able to win all the awards and do all the things. And, in a way that kept me sick a lot longer because, you're able to say to people, well, look, I'm doing this and this and this, and I'm fine, and
Right.
there
You're
was
giving them
certain,
the illusion that everything is working correctly.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But, all of us are fighting our own battle, whatever it is, every
Right.
single day. And alcohol it was masking the problems. I wasn't ever fixing the problems deep down inside me.
Okay,
Yeah.
so fast forward. So you get home, and then what was the plan? You immediately just continue? Like, did you find a sponsor? Did you just keep going to meetings? Did somebody tell you, hey, you got to go to 90 meetings in 90 days? Like, what was the?
Went to meetings, started going aggressively back to church again, reading the Bible every day. I'd been through treatment a couple of times. I've been through the rooms a lot of times. Knew a lot of people in recovery. My family is very supportive. And a lot of my family members are in recovery. So I had a great support system. But I mean, by the grace of God, I ended up, making that decision and staying sober. That was February 7th, 2020. So right before COVID. I do think if I wouldn't have made that decision, I might not be here right now just because so many people's drinking got really, really bad in COVID. And I know it would have been really hard on me.
God's timing and God's plan. It's beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah.
So do you think your parents were so strict and so hardcore about you going to treatment the first time because they knew that was in your lineage and DNA?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that's funny because I found out I'm adopted. Well, I found out I was adopted at 12, but I found my biological side right after that event, right? And then I found in 2019, and then I found all this in my lineage, the alcoholism, the drug abuse, right? And there it just made me realize like, well, I I this is in my DNA, right?
Mhm.
Like and that's truly when I started to understand that it's a disease like cancer. It's a disease like anything else, and it doesn't get the treatment or the social acceptance of somebody going through cancer, right? But it is totally a disease and something that you can medicate, you can get treatment for, but it's a different kind of treatment and a different kind of medicine. So what has been some of the things through treatment or through any best practices? Like before I said this, Amber, how I recovered is number one, faith. Right. You and I are both Christians. So I had to get right with God first. I wasn't strong enough to fix it on my own. Right. It was truly like an addiction and weakness. Right. And what always sucked with my addictions, if I'm being honest with you, I'm probably better at my job when I was an addict than I am now because it just kept me going. I'd work these insane hours and I was single at the time. So it was an upper for me and it just kept me going and working till 10, 11 o'clock at night and then going to the club afterwards was no problem for me. Right. So I was so addicted because it wasn't just the way it made me feel, it was the performance behind it. Right. So I had to get right with my faith. And then I had to get good with my fitness and diet, right? And then I had to have the friends or the community that was NA and a few friends that I confided in that had been through it too. And then I had to figure out how to have fun again without the drugs. So that was kind of my progression. What was yours?
So it's definitely faith, getting to meetings, and connecting with, making it highly accountable. I was super embarrassed about that situation that happened in November, but I told people about it that were close to me. And, I think being accountable to, not drinking every single day, you have to have a support system around you. So find good mentors, whether
Yep.
it's somebody that you work with that doesn't drink, or like I had a coach that was great at the right time, when I was first going through all this. Um, and, I think my life has continually gotten more clean since I quit drinking. Like I realized how unhealthy I was living, and so that looks like fitness, it looks like food, it looks like the proper sleep, it looks like
Yeah.
getting off of all chemicals and medications that I was taking and sometimes abused, so there, it's a journey of um, you know, getting closer to God. God's pretty clear on how he wants us to live. So
Yeah.
if you want to, if if you understand, his level of grace for all that we've done and still being, made right, it was just something that I wanted to continually work on, and I'm still working on it, right? We're just a work in progress every day.
It's
I'm
every
still,
day, isn't it?
I am just starting to um, have different things come up that I haven't had come up or haven't had come up in a while, like anxiety again that I haven't struggled with in a few years, and learning breathing techniques for that.
Yeah,
Making sure that I start my day the right way with a schedule, not a schedule necessarily in the morning, but my time to get into my day, do Bible study or, read something that's going to fill me up, read the book.
right.
Um, and then going for a walk and making sure that I'm properly fed,
Yeah.
to face the day. So
So
yeah.
it's very similar to mine. It sounds like you needed the faith, right? That was kind of your
Mhm.
go-to, like it was mine. I needed to surrender to Christ and ask for help. And as soon as I asked for help, guess what he did? Humbled
Probably
me to
that.
go get help, right? Just humbled me
100%.
through an embarrassing situation, not quite like yours, not as public as yours, but pretty similar, right?
Mhm.
And then I figured out the fitness, right? Then I figured out the community or the friends that I could be around and the friends I had to get rid of. Candidly.
Mhm.
I mean, it was more some of the people I had to get rid of in my life. And honestly, they needed to be away from me because I was the ringleader of it all, right? And then I had to figure out how to have fun. So you told us the fitness and faith and friends and fellowship. How did you learn how to have fun again without the alcohol?
Well, like I said, it was kind of an interesting time that I got sober because, like, literally a month and a half after, and maybe this was a good thing too. Month and a half after I just, fully went all in and was like, have stayed sober. COVID happened. You couldn't really go to the bars. You couldn't be in a lot of situations. I almost think that that helped me
For
knowing
sure.
where I wanted to be and, gave me a little buffer time to adjust. But I had never lived a life without fun, even when I had periods of sobriety younger age. Um, so, I mean, I think that you have to have an accountability partner. My husband's my accountability partner. We'll
Yeah.
talk about, if there's going to be, something happening at a place and, what our decision is about that before we go into the situation. I was just out in Vegas this past weekend. It's a lot there, it's a lot to be around and be in a different space, but you can do it. And,
Like coming to a town like mine, did that make you feel uncomfortable?
at times, I mean, it's hard not to see it everywhere,
Yeah.
gambling addiction, sex addiction, all of it, whatever your vice is, it's kind of there and on display. And I mean, now being just deepening in my faith, I don't want to be in those situations as much either. It's just where I don't belong there, as much anymore. But I wanted to see some great friends. We had a good time. I gambled $100, big deal. Like you can go into those situations after you do a lot of self work. And once you have that confidence level, I think, you need to live your life and we're going to be in situations that are going to challenge us, whether it's with our addiction or whether it's with our children or whether it's with a client. Um, so, you have to just rise to the occasion and know
Well,
who you
you made
are
a good
from
point
that.
though. You made a good point that you game plan. It sounds like you game plan with your husbands for situations. I do the same thing with my wife now that I think about it, and that's an awesome way to go into those situations, being intentional on like what you're gonna do.
Does he
Mhm.
drink?
He doesn't really drink that much anymore. But, when I first recovered, he was still drinking. And I mean, it was like a light switch. Like I say, it's by the grace of God. I struggled with it, making the decision to be a sober person for about 20 years with periods of sobriety in there. Um, but it wasn't, the trial and error. It's like, how much are you going to do this without,
Yeah.
and how much are you going to lose before you actually figure it out? I
Well,
just,
here's what I want everyone to hear is you have to change your identity. I have a friend going through this right now. He had a low moment, had a just thing. I know him very well, and he's the nicest guy and a good friend. And he went through a low moment when he was drinking with his wife, right? And he had to hit the rock bottom. She was like, dude, I am out if this ever happens again. And he had an alcoholic father. right?
Mhm.
And she had an alcoholic mother, right?
Mhm.
So their choice is beautiful, and now they can work together on this, right? But that's what I've been talking with him is, hey, you have to change your identity. It's not I can have one drink. It's not I can have two drinks. It's not, hey, I can drink on Friday. It's I'm not a drinker, right?
Mhm.
And you got to start with when people ask you, don't say, I'm not drinking right now.
Mhm.
It's got to be, I'm not a drinker or I don't drink, right? And until you can say that out loud and say it in a social situation, but really as an affirmation to yourself, you're not going to change your identity. And if you don't change your identity, you're not going to change your behavior or habits, right? The identity has to change, right? I even noticed it.
100%.
I went on carnivore diet, right? My mom passed away, unfortunately, a week and a half ago. I had a little moment of weakness of a couple beers and some sugar. I came off. I put on 8 pounds in a week, right? So I needed to change my day. I got right back and like, well, obviously I can't have sugar and beer anymore if I want to keep this weight off, right? So,
Mhm.
I think that's so important for people to understand is until you want to change, you won't go get help. So you got to want to change. And if you know somebody that's struggling like I have, like Drago has, like Amber has, don't think you're going to beat them into submission, right? Be like Amber's husband and be the supportive one. Have the conversations, talk in a calm Amber, calm Amber in a calm manner. Because the truth is, until that person wants to change, they're going to do it more quickly by being patient and holding their hand and letting them know you're on their side and part of their community to help them with that. The hardcore resistance, right, of you can't do this, I'm going to leave. It doesn't work often. It has worked for crazy. We're all four or all three crazy and addicts, and we know it, right? But a lot of times that won't work for someone, especially if they're going through it, right? And there's a history. So I just wanted to be clear on that. But how I wanted to end is Drago has been brave enough to go back through treatment, and our friend Brock with the fentanyl project. If you guys saw the episode with Colin Morrison from the Metal Militia, the just motocross
Freestyle
superstar.
motocross rider. Yeah.
Yeah, what a great guy. I've been
Yeah.
having texting back and forth with him and dropping his life just looks like he's really turned it around. He's got a beautiful girl on his side. But Brock runs the fentanyl project and is the sponsor of Colin. So after that, Drago said, "Hey, I want to go through your program and I want to see what your sponsorship is." So how I wanted to end this is there's definitely some things that Amber has gone through and is doing to stay sober and to live a healthy life. And I just want to tell you, Amber, the coolest part isn't just seeing all of the things you're doing and the traveling you're doing and how you document. It's the physical appearance too, right? I mean,
Mhm.
you are just stunning now, and not that you weren't before. I don't want to say that, but the transformation of just your appearance and how healthy you look and vibrant you look and happy. Really, you can. It doesn't look fake at all that you have a lot of joy in your life now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you that energy, it just comes through, and I'm so proud of you. And I just want you to know I've been cheering you on from afar really since that event happened. But it's just been awesome to see you recover and most importantly do it out loud and help others, right? Because every once in a while when we do that, Amber, it keeps me motivated to stay on the straight and narrow. It allows others to say, hey, I might need a little help. When we're honest and vulnerable and we recover out loud, it just helps others. And that's why Drago and I started this podcast is we feel there's not enough voices out there being vulnerable and honest and that they're willing to help. So why don't you guys just end and talking about like, hey, this is what I'm doing with Brock Drago and how that
Sure.
relates to how Amber's recovered and her treatment and any tactics and things that you guys are learning around the way. I call them guardrails, Amber. I've had to put a lot of
Mhm.
guardrails on my life to kind of keep me on that straight and narrow. And what are some of those guardrails and what do you suggest for our listeners?
Well, one I want to say, Amber, when you decided to get sober, you haven't relapsed?
No.
you're the third person. That's right. Three people. That's awesome. That's because I didn't get sober right away, and I relapsed a lot. So it
Well,
took
and
me a long
that's
time.
what, to go back to my point, until you are surrendered and you say, I need to change, people go to treatment and recovery all the time. I had been to it before I decided to say, God, I need your help. And I almost took my life or tried to
Yeah.
take my life, right? Until I had that low moment, I never changed my identity. Like, I don't want this anymore. I always did it to temporarily get off of how much coke I was using,
Yeah.
right? But it was never like, I don't want this in my life anymore until I got to that point.
Yeah,
Right.
they say you got a brain full of NA and a belly full of drugs or alcohol. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you got
But
to
you
be
heard
ready
that
to
with
do.
Amber too. She had
Yeah.
been through it a couple times, but until she wanted to say that enough is enough, I need to change, and had her husband support and really voice that she needed to change. We all go a few times usually, so don't feel bad if you've relapsed and need to go back.
Yeah,
Keep
for
trying
sure.
until you get it right is what I will say, because I mean, the more you do it, the more you're learning and learning about yourself and learning that you can do it. And it's not an easy thing to do. It ultimately requires you to admit that you're not in control of it, which is a huge blow to your ego and pride, which is something I work on a lot, is my ego and pride, just because if that's too much in the forefront, then um I'm not a good person to be around.
Yeah. I don't think all three of us are good people to be around. That's why, like for me, when I was getting sober initially, like I just kind of white knuckled it too, and then I found the rooms of eight. Like really, to be honest, I found an AA meeting that for whatever reason was in Vegas for like 50 years. I just stumbled into this meeting because I could just go during lunch because I didn't want anybody to know that I was trying to get sober, or you know what I'm saying? So that's what worked for me. And then going into those rooms and seeing people that have been sober for like literally 40 years, I was like, holy shit, this is crazy. Like, how's that even possible? So that's just what worked for me. But like I just did what I was told. I'm good at direction, right? And so I just go get a sponsor. Okay, cool, I'll do that. And then go work the steps. Okay, I'll do that. So when I did the steps, I kind of just did it because I was told to do it. I wasn't doing it with any meaning. And then you get some sobriety, and I'm coming up on 7 years, and I was like, man, I just felt like I needed to rework the steps, or I needed to connect with somebody that would take me through that process so I can really dig deep into myself. So like when we met Brock, he's been in the addiction recovery space for a long time. He said he's helped over like 25,000 people. He does it a little bit differently, which is kind of cool. Like we're I'm not necessarily reading out of the AA book. We're reading out of this book, Extreme Ownership. Um, the book by what is the dude,
Jocko,
The Navy SEAL guy.
Jocko.
Yo, Jocko, yeah, Jocko, dude. So we're going one chapter at a time. So with me, like he's really breaking down my character. So when we started the process, he had me take this test for the VA Institute of Character. And so his process is we were gonna see what the top 5 things I'm good at. So like for me, humor, creativity, love of learning, gratitude, social intelligence. That's why I'm good at what I do for work. My five least strengths are, the number one is bravery. I have a problem doing hard things or having hard conversations or telling people what to do or being a good leader. So that's really what I'm breaking through or working through on figuring out. Like I'm kind of finding out I'm kind of a pushover, and I give people my power, and I'm trying to take my power back. So I just that's I'm all over the place right now. Like really got my brain thinking on like what we're doing and how we're doing it. I feel like because when he came to me, he's like, you're past the addiction. Like you got that. You've already gone through the hard. You know how to do that. Like how do we do other hard things so that you can be more productive in life, right? So that's really working for
This
me.
is why
Like,
you're cold plunging at 6 in the
dude,
morning.
yeah, no, I mean, I listen. He's like, when was the last time you cold plunged? I'm like, I don't cold plunge, bro. No, I mean, I've cold plunged, but I don't cold plunge. He's like, I want you to cold plunge on Saturday at 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, all right, I'll do that. Like, follow direction, right? And then I one of our daughters wasn't feeling good. We were up, and I slept in, and then I had a text at 6:25. Hey, it's 6:25. You didn't send me a video of you cold plunging. So I was like, oh my goodness, I gotta do cheer all day. So I got all ready, and we were doing birthday stuff, and I jumped in my pool for 3 minutes and I filmed it. And then he's like, dude, that's not at 6 o'clock, and that's not for 3 minutes. He's like, I'll talk to you when you've finished doing what I asked you to do. So okay, cool. So that's Sunday. Then Monday comes around. I 5:30 got up, jumped in my pool, 42 degrees, and I sat there for 3 minutes. I've never, ever, ever done that ever in my life. Because really what he was looking for is like, what's going on in your head? Like, what voices are you hearing? He calls it the bitch voice, right? Like, you got to stop listening to the bitch voice. So that's what we're working on. Yeah. It's pretty wild for sure.
Have you noticed any changes yet?
Yeah, for sure. I need to. I think a lot of people that I give my time to are people I shouldn't give my time to, and I think I'm working on becoming a better leader. Like I want to be a better leader. I want to achieve greatness, and I'm finding that like in this book and how we're reading it, I'm definitely not doing that. I think I'm a good leader, but I'm really not. Yeah, so
Mm.
that's what we're working on. So we're
What are some
redesigning.
tactics, guardrails that you've set up, Amber?
I mean, obviously, good sleep has been, a big part of it. I struggled with sleep for a long time, so figuring that out, getting on a good sleep schedule, good nutrition, a lot of exercise, um, and guardrails. I mean, I don't like you guys. Somebody, there was times before when I'd be like, oh, I'm not drinking this week, or I'm doing dry January, or you know what I mean, something cute like that, right? But instead of saying like, I don't drink, I just don't drink anymore, and when I started doing that, people took it a lot differently. And
You
I
took your
think
power back. That's what
I
you
took my
did.
power back.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you have to tell people what you need, right?
Yeah.
I'm also a people pleaser, so I may probably get pushed over a little bit, but I want everybody to be happy and have a good time and
Yeah.
whatever. And but I think you have to stand up for what you need and tell people what you need. And that was one of my um things, that resentments was a big thing, for me. I was like, you get hung up on this stuff that people don't even know you're mad about it, because you didn't express what you needed or what you expected in certain situations. So I think good communication and I mean, we don't do a lot of the same things that we used to do, obviously. Trips look different, all of that. So I think you have to have good guardrails. I do a couple of Bible studies a week. I go to church every Sunday, or I listen to it when I'm not. I also listen to another church in Minnesota still I used to attend, weekly
Bible study
walks.
and being in church every Sunday is a guardrail.
Yeah, for
For sure.
sure.
Yeah.
Yep. If I miss church on Sunday, it is not good for my team, my family, anyone the next week.
Yeah. I need to go. I need to have an attitude adjustment all the time.
Mm.
And I think too, another guardrail for me has been helping other alcoholics and seeing seeing the struggle, being in that struggle again, and just being like, I don't want to be back there again. That's just sounds awful to me. I've lost a lot of, had friends and family members die. I have a family member in jail right now struggling with the disease. And you- there's just, it's that keeps it makes me grateful now to be at this point, grateful that God,
It fills
allowed
your
me.
cup up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Chad, what's the saying we always say? You're the best person to help is the person you used to be. I always get that one
Yep.
right.
The
Yeah.
best person to help someone else is the person that used to be them.
It used to be them. Yeah. Which is
Right.
powerful.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah.
I can help a lot of drug addicts, and I have. I can help a lot of people who have attempted to take their life because I've been at that rock bottom moment.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
It's relatable for anyone that's struggling with opioid addiction to want to talk to you, right? Anyone that's struggling with alcoholism, just, easy to talk to Amber. You can see how open she is and vulnerable with it, right? And documents it very well. So,
Yeah. That's awesome. We recover out loud, and that's why we do what we do. I have one last question for you, Amber. Like me and Chad have daughters. We have a bunch of kids, and so do your kids? And your kids sound like they're older. Are you like, do they know that you're sober? Like, are you just keep it 100 with them? Like, what what
Yeah,
is
I
your,
think,
how transparent are you with the kid?
there
How
we go.
transparent
That was what I was trying to
and
say.
open with the kids are
Yeah.
you on your addictions?
um, the kids are 100%, know everything. And they see me at some low points too, right? And they were teenagers then, and that's one of my biggest regrets. Is having my kids see me, at some of those spaces, but at the same time, like God is so good that now I think it just solidifies who they are and how dangerous alcohol can be for them, because they've seen both sides of that page. Um, but both my kids are amazing. They're both in the military now, so a little bit of a different stage. And I mean, I think that being around me being sick probably showed them that alcohol isn't always fun.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
okay. That's good. I mean, I think our society puts too much of a allure to it, all the attractive parts of alcohol out there.
Right.
But they forget to mention, the person that shows up at home that's not their best version of themselves, and how many people that truly affects in family. And so yeah, I'm grateful. I hope that they make good decisions with alcohol, but they already have so far. And I think that, you know, not sheltering them through that.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
For sure.
We come from the parents' generation that everything was to sweep it under the rug and ignore the problem, right?
And keep it moving.
And
Mhm.
amen, your parents didn't, because maybe that first time they sent you, Amber, was the wake up call you needed in 2020, right?
Mhm.
So I have been vocal, honest, and open, and now my daughters are watching this podcast. So they're on YouTube and they found it and they watched it. And Drago, I just have a new line I use with them. And I talk very openly with him about my addiction. Said, hey, most parents love their kids, and I guarantee I love you as much or more than any parent in this world. And I went through that, so you don't have to.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
the truth is unless I talk to him about it, unless I'm open, unless I'm honest, unless I'm vulnerable with them, they might go through it too. And that's just how I see it as a parent.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Don't keep it a secret anymore. Like it's just same in my household. They know what's up. I mean, I can't stop them from making their own decisions, making choices, but I can give them the advice that potentially when they're in those situations, they don't make that decision to do whatever they're going to do.
Amen. Final thoughts, Amber?
Um, yeah, I mean, I think anybody can do it. I wasn't able to drive by a liquor store without it like having almost like a neon sign that said my name on it sometimes, at the beginning parts of my recovery. So don't think that, if you're having physical addiction issues, you're too far gone, anything like that. Just keep trying, get some good people around you, find a God. It doesn't have to be the God I understand. It can be the God you understand at the time. I remember, my first step towards faith was just, falling to my knees and saying, I know there is a God and I'm not that God, but I don't know what else you are. You know what I mean? So just that little bit of surrender will allow you to um, get yourself out of the way for some real magic to happen.
Mm.
Amen.
Well said. Well said. Well, listen, guys,
I
thank you.
Yeah, let me just say one thing. I'll let you take us out. I am just once again, your journey has been so unbelievable. I love your strength and how you went from that moment to all the traveling you've been doing with your husband. It's honestly, I follow you on social media closely, and it has inspired me to live my life more. If I'm being honest with you, some of us starting this, I thought about you because I remember reaching out to you when we first started this, and it just didn't feel right. We kind of missed each other, and it just didn't work out right. And I think that's for a reason. You look amazing. Your energy's different. I love that you're recovering out loud and open and honest with people about it, and it's just been so refreshing and beautiful to watch. And I just wanted to thank you for being so open and honest and vulnerable. It will help a lot of people today.
I hope
Yeah.
so.
Thank you for coming on. So, everybody, thank you for taking the time to watch this. Share us. We're on literally every social media platform. You can find us. You can listen to us. Please share. We say this every time. Listen, we don't do this because we're trying to get famous. We do this because this is what fills our cup up. Like we're here to help people. And I would much rather take a call from you at 3 o'clock in the morning than have to go to your funeral. So if you need a hug, a friend, someone to talk to, me and Chad, we put our personal mobiles in the comments. We are always available. If you're thinking about getting sober, if you're thinking about recovery, like whatever you need, we got you. We have the resources. We're here to help. Like we do find happiness, we do find love, we do find financial freedom. If you want it, it's out there. You just got to want to be able to do the work.
Amen. Thank you, Amber. If
Thank
you
you
know
guys.
someone struggling, don't be scared to share our episode with them, share their number, share our number with them, introduce us over text. I've had all of those situations happen since we've started this podcast. We're here to help. We want to inspire, and no one better to help you than the person that used to be you. And you have 3 people here willing to help.
Let's go. Love you
Thank you,
guys.
Amber.
Thank
Thank
you.
you
Love you
guys.
guys.